royalty. Recognize it, recognize royalty. Gotta recognize it, recognize royalty. Like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty.
Hey, peace. So today I want to talk about, I really just want to do a comparison of paternity fraud rates in Jamaica and in America, but more specifically with the Black American community. So the comparison is between Jamaica and the Black American community in terms of their paternity fraud rate. The first thing I want to do, though, is kind of, because I think it's important and it's relevant. I just want to talk about what exactly is the population of both. So I'm just going to do the Chat GPT thing and just ask. First question I'm going to ask is, how many Blacks live in America? And it says, as of the latest data in 2023, approximately 48.3 million people live in the U.S., identify as Black, whether alone or in combination with another race, making up about 14.4% of the total U.S. population. So if we count people that are mixed, that identify as Black, that's 14.4% of the population, or about 48 million. Here's a clearer breakdown. So it's going to break it down a little bit further. It says Black alone, or only one race, around 41.1 million, which is roughly 12.4% of the population. So where 48 million are mixed, it says only about 41 million is just Black alone, which is where the 12.4% number comes from. And I think that's the number that's more often referred to. It says Black alone or in combination, which includes multiracial individuals identifying as Black, and that's about 46.9 million, or 14.2%. Some estimates, it says, suggest inclusion of Hispanic-identified individuals and broader reporting, bumping totals to around 50 to 51 million, or approximately 15% of Americans. So, the most extreme is 15% of the population, which is around 50 million people can be identified as Black in America. The key takeaways: about 12.4% of Americans identify solely as Black or Black alone. When including multiracial individuals, that share rises to 14 to 15%. And overall, U.S. Black population is around 48 to 51 million, depending on how it's defined. All right, so that's, I think that's important, just knowing exactly what the population numbers are. So let's go and take a look at the Jamaican numbers. Before we look at the Jamaican numbers, I want to ask ChatGPT, what percent of Americans today are descendants of slaves or identify as descendants of slaves? Because I really want to make a clear distinction of what the numbers are. And it says around 12 to 14% of Americans identify as Black or African American, about 40 to 48 million people today. Most but not all of those are descendants of enslaved Africans brought to the U.S. So where we said before that anywhere from 48 to 50 million people identify or can be identified as Black, not all of them can be seen as descendants of slaves in America. And it says from census and demographic data, roughly 10.3% of the U.S. population are native Black Americans, meaning they descend from those enslaved in the U.S., not recent immigrants. That's around 33 to 36 million people or approximately 10 to 11% of all Americans. So FBA is that 10%, which is around 33 to 36 million. So where the Black population in America can go up to 15%, FBA is really only 10% of that. It says Pew Research indicates that about 50% of Black adults say their ancestors were enslaved, and 41% specifically report ancestors enslaved in the US. But self-awareness varies. Many don't know their full family history. And in summary, ChatGPT says about 12 to 14% identify as Black or African American, and approximately 10 to 11%, which is 33 to 36 million Black Americans descended from US enslaved Africans. Around 10 to 11% of all Americans today are descendants of enslaved people brought to the US, representing the majority of Black Americans. So that, again, I think is relevant to what we want to talk about, which is why I kind of wanted to start there. So around 33 to 36 million Black Americans, or FBA, and around 48 to 50 million, I would say, Black Americans, or anywhere from 45 to 48, let's say, Black Americans. So let's move on. I think we may just want to take a look at the Jamaican numbers. So let's find those numbers. All right. So the next question that I'm going to ask ChatGPT is, what is the population of Jamaica? And it says, as of mid-2025, Jamaica's population is estimated to be around 2.8 million people. So, that's about 10% of the FBA population. And so if we're just comparing numbers, Jamaicans to FBA, where FBA, if you remember, was 33 to 36 million, Jamaica today is 2.8 million, which is less than 10%. So the FBA population is anywhere from 10 to 12 times the size of the Jamaican population. So 2.8 million people. It says 2.8 million is the population of Jamaica in 2025. It says Worldometer estimates approximately 2,837,077 residents at mid-2025, with a population roughly 0.034% of the global totals. So while figures vary slightly depending on data sources and methodology, the most reliable range centers around 2.82 to 2.84 million today. And in summary, it says Jamaica's population hovers just below 3 million, with most estimates clustering between 2.82 and 2.84 million. For current reference, 2.83 million is a reasonable rounded figure. So again, less than 10% of the FBA population, because I only want to really concentrate on just FBA. So less than 10% of the Black population, the FBA population in America. So very small compared to the Black population in America. So now I really want to get into just the paternity fraud numbers and just comparing those percentages and kind of seeing where that takes us. All right, so the next question I'm going to ask ChatGPT is, what is the paternity fraud rate in Jamaica? And it says, here's what the data shows. Estimated rates in Jamaica. A University of the West Indies study led by Dr. Herbert Gale found a paternal discrepancy rate close to 20%, meaning about 1 in 5 Jamaican fathers are unknowingly raising a child not biologically theirs. Preliminary findings from that study even reached 25%, though more recent figures dropped slightly below 20%. Some global overviews list Jamaica among the highest, estimating around 34.6%. But such figures often derive from selective or high-risk samples. Summary and context. Today's best supported estimate places Jamaica's paternity fraud rate at roughly 20 to 25% for unauthorized father-child assignments. While global reports sometimes suggest figures as high as 35%, these often arise from biased data sets. The UWI-based studies, I believe UWI is the University of the West Indies, based studies provide the most credible population-based insight. Yeah, and it says though that range of 20 to 25 is the most credible based insight, population-based insight. So the paternity fraud rate in Jamaica is 1 in 5, 20 to 25%. So let's talk about the paternity fraud rate in America. And that's the next question. What's the paternity fraud rate in America? It says the best available data suggests that non-paternity or paternal discrepancy in the United States, the rate at which presumed fathers are not the biological fathers, is typically around 1 to 5%, not the often quoted 10 to 30%. So 1 to 5% in America compared to 20 to 25% in Jamaica. It says what the studies show. A 2005 review of 17 international studies found a median paternal discrepancy rate of 3.7%, with individual studies ranging from 0.8% to 30%. In broader population-based studies, not limited to cases where paternity was a dispute, the range is consistently 1 to 5%. A U.S. study of nearly 24,000 users of family tree DNA found around 3% experienced non-paternity via direct-to-consumer testing. Recent DNA testing service-based studies in the U.S. report that approximately 11 to 12% of men who requested tests, often in cases of doubt, were not biological fathers. But these findings come from high-risk or dispute-based samples, not representative of the general population. Why estimates vary? I'm just reading what ChatGPT says about it, because I think all these numbers are, again, important and relevant to what we're talking about. Why estimates about the number? Now it's going to talk a little bit about why the estimates vary, why some are saying 1 to 5, why some even go up to 34%. It says one, sampling bias. Rates as high as 17 to 33% often come from populations already suspecting misattributed paternity. Another reason is study population. Random population studies show 1 to 5%, while dispute-driven groups are much higher. So I guess pretty much the same thing it said about Jamaica, where it says Jamaica's numbers can go up to 34%, I believe it says, but those samples aren't necessarily reliable. So the same issue. So I think for Jamaica, it's 20 to 25% is the accepted, and here with America, it's 1 to 5%. The next reason why the numbers vary says its time frame and methods. Some early studies from the 1950s to the 1980s may overestimate due to less accurate testing methods. The summary for the US, the general population studies The non-paternity rate is 1 to 5%. The large DTC test user study is approximately 3%. And the dispute-driven testing is anywhere from 11 to 33. So the overall U.S. population, so it says in the rate in the overall U.S. population, the most credible peer-reviewed research supports a non-paternity rate of approximately 1 to 5%, with a realistic central estimate around 2 to 4%. Yeah, so, that's America in general, though. That's just comparing Jamaica's numbers and America's numbers. So Jamaica's numbers are very high compared to America's numbers. And I think that when we hear people talk about comparing those rates, those are the rates they are comparing. And, the people that always bring this stuff up about the high paternity fraud rate in Jamaica are normally Black Americans. So now I want to compare not the American rate of 1 to 5%. I want to just zoom in on the Black American rate and compare that to the Jamaican rate. So the next question I'm asking is, what is the paternity fraud rate among Black Americans? And it says, here's a data-driven overview of non-paternity, i.e. paternity fraud or misattributed paternity rates among Black Americans. Key study findings. Nationwide US DNA test data. A study of approximately 10,000 DNA paternity tests representative of child support or legal testing cases found overall paternity inclusion, that is, presumed father is biological, was 72%. For African Americans, that number was 67% inclusion, or 33% non-paternity. Native Americans, the number was 82% inclusion and approximately 18% non-paternity. So it gives three numbers: the overall paternity inclusion, where the father was biological, was 72%, which means 28% were not. And for African Americans, the number is 67% inclusion, paternity inclusion, which means the presumed father was biological, 67% and 33% non-paternity. And again, and just to reiterate, for Native Americans, it was 18% non-paternity. So where the Jamaican rate was 20 to 25, here it's stating that the African American rate is 33%. And it says this suggests for Black men undergoing such tests, about 1/3 were not the biological father. So where in Jamaica it's 1 in 5, among African Americans is found to be 1 in 3, or 1/3. Regional studies with racial comparison. A Michigan study using regional data showed for white families 1.4% non-paternity. For Black families, 10% non-paternity. This indicates Black American non-paternity rates were notably higher than white American rates, though not as high as dispute-driven averages. It then goes on to speak about broad literature averages. General population studies, not limited to high-risk groups, estimate global non-paternity around 1 to 5%, with a median of 3.7%. However, those are overall averages, not race-specific. When narrowed to disputed or low confidence cases, race often range from 17 to 33%. So in summary, it gives a table. It says, it gives a sample group and then the rate. So the sample group was national legal or child support paternity tests. Was the non-paternity rate was approximately 33%. In dispute-driven cases, it was 10%, and the general population, all races, was 1 to 5%. Why rates vary, sampling context, dispute-based testing. Why, again, and it's going to go into why the rates vary again. Sampling context, dispute-based testing naturally has higher non-paternity rates, whereas random sampling yields much lower figures. Legal versus personal testing. Tests obtained in legal child support settings tend to show higher exclusion rates. And study design, national versus regional focus yields different outcomes. And it now gives the bottom line. And it says, bottom line, for Black Americans, estimates vary. Approximately 10% in regional or broader populations, and up to 33% in national legal child support contexts. And these contrast with 1 to 5% in general population across all races. So where in Jamaica, the numbers for Jamaica are really is really about when we talk about paternity fraud in Jamaica, it's really about child support, and that these women do it for child support reasons because they want someone to support their child. And so, in my estimation, it's fair in this context to compare that 20 to 25% with the 33% among the Black American population, the African American population, because that's the same because those are the child support numbers. The 33% is the child support context. And so where in Jamaica, the paternity fraud for child support is 20 to 25%, among the Black American population, that same paternity fraud for child support is at a whopping 33%. So, I just kind of wanted to be clear and kind of just speak to that issue of, whether Jamaica, when they say Jamaica is the paternity fraud capital of the world, it's making comparisons to countries, and that 20 to 25% rate for a country is very large when you compare it to the 1 to 5% for America when we're looking at the country as a whole. But if we are to really zoom in and look at populations, the Jamaican population, and compare it to the FBA population, we're going to find a much higher rate of paternity fraud within the Black American community than within the Jamaican population or within any other, Black population in Africa or anywhere else, because Jamaica has the highest among countries. So the Black American rate is really, so Black Americans are really, the Black American community is really the paternity fraud capital of the world if we're comparing if we're just zoning in on just that population alone. And I think that is the fair thing to do. The fact that the American populations can go up to 5% from 1 to 5, the fact that it can go up to 5% is mainly because of that high Black American rate. So I think I've said enough about this issue of paternity fraud, and I hope I'm trying to put stuff in context. Just a little bit. Hope you liked the video. So, like the video, whether you like the video or not, like the video, hit subscribe, and hit that notification. All that helps. Thanks for stopping by, man. Bless y'all.
Recognize royalty. Recognize it, recognize royalty. Gotta recognize it, recognize royalty. Like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty.
I can feel you.
Recognize royalty.
I can see you.
Recognize royalty.
Now I recognize
Royalty.
royal to these eyes.
Royalty.
I can see you.
Recognize royalty.
I can love again.
Recognize royalty.
Now I
I recognize it.
royalty.
I recognize passion. Never just the man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never just the man with the scepter in demand, with the lecture in the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work? Working with the man, don't kiss the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. As gold already blings from the highest that prizes no sins. Recognize the king's overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings. When you recognize royalty, I feel it.
I can see you.
Yeah, I see it.
Now
I recognize now.
royal to these eyes.
Royalty,
I can see you.
I see it.
I can love again.
Now I'm in love now. I recognize your passion.
Royalty.
Recognize royalty, sunrise royally. Sitting on top of the world, I'm five morally. Status of a king for surely. Orally, we pop dumb things till we stop the impurity. We pop them just for recognition. Listen to the missionary on a mission with the visionary vision. Do you recognize intuition? I reel in men when I went out fishing. I'll tell you why they rocked the boat. Cause they didn't understand what the prophet wrote. What's the conniption? To choose the Jews' crucifixion and refuse recognition at son child's christening in the mix of some. Insist they fix the system from malarkey back to my monarchy. Yeah, back up off me. Don't soil my purple and blue, and I will recognize your royalty too.
I can feel you.
I feel it.
I can see you.
I can see it.
Now
I recognize now.
royal to these eyes.
Your royalty.
I can see you.
I see it.
I can love again.
And I'm in love now.
Now I recognize
I recognize